It's funny, like I'm coaching a lot of young traders right now, like 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds that's kind of spending a lot of time on Discord and TikTok. And they're just, a lot of them have really good mindset, but some of them, they're just such in a rush of just making money like now and not really thinking about a long-term perspective. And it is that world we're living in, just, TikTok, 15-second swipes. And we're just trained, our kids are trained in a different way now. And I think mindfulness, meditation, teaches us to slow down. It's just so needed right now.
Welcome to the Global Affair podcast, brought to you by Love Out Loud, the world's largest love-based movement, actualizing a civilization of love by 2030. My name's Nicole Gibson, and join me and some of the world's brightest minds as we bring some of the most important and controversial conversations of our time into a space of unity. It's important to know that as your host, this isn't about my personal opinion or bias, but rather an opportunity to listen with love, honesty, curiosity, and reveal the true universal experience us humans have amongst the differences. So if you love the show, please let us know by giving us a rating and tell us how to make this conversation easier for other people to jump into as well. And with that, let's get it. Chong, Courtney, welcome to the Global Affair. What an honor to have my fellow directors of the Love Out Loud Foundation. And this isn't something that we have spoken about on the Global Affair before. And now we get to hear it straight from you guys. I'd love to discuss your personal interests in mental health, why this matters to you, why we're focusing on the youth, and chat through your journeys and how this relates to the amazing work we're doing with the foundation. So welcome.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate you.
Yeah. So where to begin? Maybe Chong, you can kick us off with your contemplations and musings right before we came together and really decided to collaborate, the way that you saw this problem and what drove you to really believe that this was the solution.
Yeah, definitely. I'll give the short version of the story. So basically, I love helping people, and I've been on a journey of figuring out how to help people since I think early 20s, mid 20s, and a lot of experimentation and failures and successes. And long story short, it led me to the point of really understanding the most impactful way that I can help people or help the world is changing people's mind, raising the level of consciousness or vibration, or I would say maybe wisdom, level of connection / love that's in the world. And, that realization had come from many, roller coaster of failures and successes from, DJing, organizing events, coaching people, helping people with trading. I think I saw one of your videos on, I think it might have been either a TED Talk or one of the events. And I just really connected with what you were about, just the way, how authentic you were about the mission of love and just the level of scale that was in your vision, in your mind. It was a direct match with what I had in my mind in terms of scale and what is truly possible in terms of change for the world and for the human race. So I looked for an opportunity to connect with you without being too random. And yeah, we connected through, meditation, I think organizing some online meditation events, and then also building your startup, which you are deep on your journey right now. And so after we connected, I think after a while, I brought up the idea of just really using meditation and mindfulness to change the world and how to, insert this idea and the technology into the school system. And that's, how the conversation started. And here we are.
What a journey it's been. And, like Chong just mentioned, he's a very loved investor in our tech startup, in truth. And, having the dynamic relationship, I think, with other founders and friends going on this mission to really transform the world together is such a special journey. And when you came to me, Chong, and said, I really feel that we need to apply mindfulness and meditation and have that be something that, sits within the schooling system so that young people can have full access to their potential, their minds know how to regulate, and you asked, how do you think I should go about this? It was so aligned with what I'd always seen for the foundation. And I don't know if my listeners on this show specifically know the story, but the Love Out Loud Foundation actually used to be the Rogan Rouge Foundation, which was the first mental health charity I began at 18. And when Chong connected with me those years ago, there was this beautiful kind of 360 moment where we actually decided to combine the nonprofit's efforts with the Love Out Loud movement to create this exponential impact, because the movement's really focused on, emotional capacity building and awareness for the world. And to have this nonprofit arm now that's really focused on empowering the youth is seriously so special. And then we found our third amigo, Court, along the journey. And I'd love you to kind of share how you ended up here and why this matters to you.
Absolutely. So the Chong touched on it before, right? When he spoke about trying to change the minds of people. And that was something that I give a lot of thought and energy towards. And that's like perception. It's like our perception, or like, why do we perceive things to be how they are? And how can I have a conversation with you, Nick, or you, Chong, and we both see the same thing in a different light? And I spend a lot of time having like some deep, meaningful conversations with Chong. And although we have very different environments and backgrounds, we had like a lot of the similar values. And I was really attracted to Chong's kindness and the way that he thought and the way that he communicates in a very gentle but genius-like manner. I was drawn to that. And then, when he starts talking, like one of the first things that Chong said to me, right, was that he wanted to, every school to have some sort of meditation practice. And like, I have 4 young children. So that was like, it stuck out to me, right? Because as a father, I don't think you can really understand like how important, like we are all aware of environment. I think we're all conscious of it. And it's like, we all try to nurture and protect our circle and where we spend time and where we spend our thoughts. And a lot of the times, especially in the schooling environment, you don't get to choose that environment, right? Like, yeah, you can choose the school. And I've done that. Like I've put a lot of thoughts and effort into like where my children are schooled. But still, there's like, you don't get to choose who's in their classroom. You don't get to choose who their teacher is. You don't get to choose who the principal is. So there's so many elements that you have no control of. And I thought that would be like an amazing accomplishment if one day that was a thing. And then we got talking, expressing, and then he sort of introduced me to you, sharing some links. And it was the TED Talk that maybe that's where you did find Nick originally, Chong, but you shared that. And the biggest thing that sort of stood out to me was a very similar things, but it was like how passionate you were about, what you were talking about, but in a really gentle and empathetic way as well. And yeah, I think you're both incredibly interesting. And then when I had an opportunity to spend more time with you, we jumped in our community calls and I got a lot out of that, like so much out of it, right? And there was never any agenda for the most part. It was like no one knew what we're going to talk about, but there was never any dead air. There was always something powerful. And I feel like everyone always left them conversations like better or with a different point of view. And the things when I met you, Nick, and when we started talking about the foundation, it was just so heavily aligned with my values and like the world that I want to try my kids to grow up into. Because I think that I'm not totally convinced that, the world has our children's best interests in mind, right? Like the world is compounding so fast and I'm not sure if we're all fully aware of where that ends up. Like it was funny the other day, like I was just interested, right? And I was like, we invented a car like 130 years ago. That's not long, right? 130 years ago, we didn't have a car. Now we do. It's like, look at all that we've achieved in the last 130 years. It's pretty scary to think like, what is the next 130 like starting from today? So being able to compound that position to like the next 130 years, like, I don't want to say it's scary, but there's so much uncertainty, right? Like no one knows what it's like, but it's not going to be like the last 130.
I think that's such an important point. I actually found myself this past week having a conversation with a senior teacher at a school who was interested in integrating some of these understandings that we teach around emotional health, etc. And one of my questions to her was, what's the baseline conversation that your students are having right now around the future? And she started telling like a couple of stories. There's this one kid that we're trying to help get an internship that's really passionate about accounting and listed a couple of other things. And I just paused and asked, are you really preparing these young people for a world where the majority of industry as we know it is not going to exist? And what skills are you introducing to really support them to manage this exponentially changing time and tide that we're in? That the reality is 80% of our jobs will be eradicated. And I think coming back to the mission of the foundation to ensure that every young person is empowered to own the quality of their mental health and emotional health, to have a purpose in life. Skills like meditation and mindfulness are not just nice to haves with where we're going. They're crucial, I think, for any human being, but in particular, the next generation that's really going to carry this, forward for us, to know how to manage, adapt to change, and also come from a state of balanced decision making, have a strong sense of center, because the world, to your point, Court, is about to go through so much change.
For sure. And I think too, when you talk about mindfulness, at least for me, it's like, I think it's super important that we teach our children that what we have right now is, especially in Australia, right? We're super blessed. We're so blessed to have everything that we can have. Like, to be able to turn a tap on and have clean water, to be able to like be in a home that doesn't, that we don't get wet when it rains. Like, they're little fundamental things that we don't give any energy towards. But I think when you spend time in meditation or you spend time reflecting, they're typically the things that pop up. Like, they're typically the things that you think of. It's like being able to stop and pause and understand that for the most part, we are all so lucky. Like, so I had this thought, right? We're all like trying to attain the next thing. It's like, if I get this, then I will have that. It's like, I'm going to have this certain feeling when I acquire, this next stage or whatever it might be. It's like, we're always looking for trophies or recognition for like achieving X, Y, Z. But it's like, the crazy thing to me is like, life is the reward. Like, we were already rewarded with the gift is this. So it's like, I think it's important that we chill a little bit and understand that we have already won. Like, this is the prize, rather than like trying. But I don't mean that in a way that it's like never aspire or never work hard or never dream. But it's like, at the default, it's all good. Like, we already won.
Yeah, I love that mindset and perspective, Courtney. And it's funny, like, I'm coaching a lot of young traders right now, like 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds that's kind of spending a lot of time on Discord and TikTok. And a lot of them have really good mindset, but some of them, they're just such in a rush of just making money like now and not really thinking about a long-term perspective. And it is that world we're living in, just, TikTok, 15-second swipes. And we're just trained, our kids are trained in a different way now. And I think mindfulness, meditation, teaches us to slow down. It's just so needed right now. And when I think about that, I think what just came into my mind is, mindfulness is both a defense and an offense. Like, we're trying to prevent, obviously poor mental health, prevent all these negatives, but then also we are also trying to create mental strength. And when I think about the ultimate goal in my imagination, what really excites me is the possibility that maybe the human race is not the species that exists and we destroy life on the planet, right? Like, that story, somehow we accepted. Maybe we can turn it around 180 degrees and become so conscious that we are the species that, because that we exist, we actually allow life on this planet to thrive rather than going extinct. So, why isn't that a possibility? Why isn't that the goal? And we just have accepted that, it's okay that we're killing nature and all of this. So, and that's only going to be possible if we change from within, change our heart, our vibration, and then potentially that could be possible. So that's my dream. Maybe we can increase the probability that could happen in our lifetime.
I think we're well on the way, really. And we have such an incredible opportunity as the world goes through this shift with the right leaders on the front line, the right conversations that are spearheading the direction of this change, to move that change, to move the human population into a path that's more altruistic. And I think this is a really beautiful segue. Maybe, Chong, we can share how we came to understand the way that we're looking to solve this problem, because the foundation is very unique in its approach, especially for a non-profit organization. And one of the things I know the three of us have a passion for that we share is the passion for entrepreneurship, building successful and sustainable commercial businesses. And I know for me, there was a massive mindset change when I stepped out of nonprofit into building startups, commercial business. The biggest mindset shift was that needed to happen from nonprofit to commercial was, in a nonprofit, often you're given funding for a specific project, whether that's through donation or some kind of grant. And the key objective is to deliver that project. So you're not really thinking about, return on investment when you're in the nonprofit world, as a general rule of thumb. In a commercial business, you're constantly thinking, how do the investments I make in the business create a return, which ultimately creates sustainability? And isn't it such a shame that the nonprofit sector doesn't have this mindset? And so what Chong and I did when we first came together and decided to transform the foundation into the Love Out Loud Foundation to solve this problem was, rather than reinventing the wheel, we really took the time to meet with, have conversations with different stakeholders and leaders in the youth mental health space to see where they believed the gaps were. And interestingly, almost all of them said it's ineffective, the fact that every nonprofit that's working in this space towards the same cause is competing for funding. Why would we be competing when ultimately the goal we have is the same? But the system itself isn't allowing us to be collaborative. And we don't have enough resources. We don't have enough resources to deliver our change projects. And so from that, we really thought through, okay, how can we bring this more commercial understanding of how to build something sustainable and apply it to the nonprofit sector? And I think it's incredibly unique. As far as we know, there's really no other foundation that's approaching the problem in this way. And Chong, I'd love you to just speak on what we came up with and how this kind of leans on and leverages a lot of your background and expertise.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is where I feel like us three get along really well, because we are a fan of, well, we're not afraid of taking a risk. We love doing something that is different and what makes sense, and, kind of use first principles thinking. And that's how we came to this idea of, let's focus on what the end impact is and be flexible with how we get there. And if there are already, let's say, 10 to 15 organizations in Australia that's already doing amazing work with young kids, why should we just become a 16th organization doing the exact same thing? What are they missing? And the thing that you said they were missing is, the biggest thing was resources. So if resources is the limitation, then why don't we solve that limitation for the whole space? And that's where we came up with a model where our whole purpose is to solve that one. There's, obviously the commercial mindset, and also uniting the space is the second and third, but the first one is the resources. And the way we can solve that is connect where the resources are to where the resources are needed. But also, before we allocate the resources, we are innovating. Well, it's not a very innovative model, but in this space, I guess it is. Before we spend the money, we're going to put it into a pool and invest it. And we only donate and spend the profits from the pool, so that we're creating an ecosystem where a one-time donation from an organization or an individual can turn into potentially infinite impact from the returns that's generated by the investments. And obviously there are risks involved, and this is where obviously a lot of due diligence and skill, and I would say self and belief in this new model. And I feel like there will be pushback from certain people, but no real, I would say, progress in society has existed without taking some sort of risk, right? So, and I'm pretty happy with taking the risk for us to go ahead and introduce this model to the not-for-profit space and be the pilot, but also the leaders to show that this model works, and then other not-for-profits could potentially utilize the same thing. And the interesting thing is this is not anything new, because organizations, individuals, companies have been investing, generating returns, growing their capital for centuries. So doing it for not-for-profit is just a very small step from what already exists and what already is possible. So, that's kind of, what we came up with. And it's super exciting to introduce this to the space.
And can I just add one thing there too, Nick? And the thing that really excites me is that, like you touched on before, like a lot of the times we're waiting on funding, or there's like massive grant applications, and then you're kind of in a lottery and you have to there's a lot of like fingers crossed and like wishful thinking. It's like being able to create your own business model that can generate income for you to then, invest in the health of our country is huge. Like we're basically not just standing around hoping and waiting for funding or government support. It's like, hey, like we're not going to just wait. We're going to act. We'll do something about it, and we'll build our own machine to generate and then invest into the communities.
Exactly right. Yeah. And I think, we kicked off by sharing how this is no longer just a nice to have for the next generation. This is actually essential. And I think this is where innovation is really required. And historically, charities, nonprofits, they're not usually structured in a way that allows for much innovation. There's a lot of often red tape, bureaucracy, and rightly so, because it's ultimately usually donations that they're bringing in to sustain. So there's had to be those levels of bureaucracy that's often slow impact down, sometimes, not always. But what I think is so brilliant about this is it will allow, hopefully, the speed that comes with a commercial business into a space which is purely dedicated to impact. And that's so important right now. That's exactly what we need, and it's what we need to be prioritizing. And to any social impact entrepreneur that listens to us in this conversation, be inspired to start thinking about how to design systems that create a flow of energy, a flow of resources to these really crucial challenges that we need to solve, for humanity now.
Like we were talking about mindfulness and stuff like that before, and like just chilling out and not feeling rushed, or like we need to like make risky decisions straight away. And like I balance and juggle with this personally, right? Because whilst we need to be super conscious of like how short our life is and like our impact that we can have in 100 years, which isn't a long time, as business owners and entrepreneurs, we're also in a race, right? Because like we have products that we're racing to market to beat competitors. Okay, like we might have the most amazing platform, but if a competitor beats us to that investor or to that industry, then we get forgotten about forever. And I think too, it's like, whilst we want to be mindful, whilst we want to make all the right decisions, we don't have 5 or 10 years to like wait for funding, because there's like it's in need right now. Although it's not a race, like we're against the clock, because there's things that need to improve right away. And whilst we're not solving them problems, then they're not improving, right? So they'll just compound or just over time, just progressively get worse. So yeah, it's not a race, but like we have to act fast.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Courtney. And you just look at the evidence to prove your point, right? Like if you ask, let's say, a parent of a teenager who's in a school where, someone's committed suicide or something like that, then the urgency is 100% there. It's like, we cannot wait, because, you just don't know, like when it's someone close to you, or, and the statistics are there. That is clear evidence that this is super urgent and it cannot wait. And I guess this is why we have decided to take the steps now to, build our community, share these ideas out into the world. And it's not our idea. I feel like anyone out there, any organization, charity can take this idea and run with it. And, and we'd be really happy to see that in the world. So yeah, the urgency is definitely there.
I was just thinking, like, it sucks, right? And like I catch myself doing this all the time, but it sucks that we have to lose something to understand how amazing it was or what it meant to us. Like it could be something as small as a happy feeling. Like when you lose a happiness feeling or a joyful feeling and you feel sad, like that sucks. But if you lose someone that you love to like a drastic thing like suicide, then that's like, how do you deal with that, right? And it's crazy that how do we communicate? How do we send a message out there to let people know that you don't have to, like, let's be grateful and let's be mindful of what we have right now and treasure that, because like one day it could not be there. And I catch myself doing this, right? But it's unfortunate that sometimes we have to lose something to understand how important it was.
It's the human condition, isn't it, you guys? I do feel we can evolve beyond that, and it is practices ultimately like meditation and mindfulness, I think, that give us the space to consider how blessed we are in daily life. Something I appreciate about you both so much is every conversation with you is a reminder of the importance of that mindset, and being around people that, keep your frequency high in that way, to keep your thoughts in the right place really matters. That's the power of community, right? But a question to you both, what does mental health mean to you? And I kind of want to break this down over the next few minutes, because for so many people, it means different things. And we're all here because we're passionate about this cause. We want to build a more mentally healthy and resilient world and for the next generation. But what does it specifically mean for the both of you?
Can I answer first, John?
After you, mate.
For me, I think mine's changed over time, right? And I think it will continue to do that. But I'm so conscious around the way that I feel because a lot of people rely on me. So like that people might be my family, they might be employees, they might be customers. So in order for me to deliver in a really high standard, I must be in a really solid mental state. And I know that I can operate at a really high level when I feel good. And the way that I feel good is just being conscious of, of who I'm spending time with, the music that I'm listening to, the things that I'm reading. Am I listening to news? It's like, I'm so like that mental state or that mental wellness is how I operate. I've been in darker places. I've had trouble with drugs and alcohol. I've done them other things and I couldn't operate at that level. So it's like when I fixed or when I improved my circle or when I stopped making negative choices, I think the universe can identify that you're making an effort and it delivers other opportunities for you. And I know for sure that I'm not sitting here with you guys if I was still drinking like I used to drink. I'm just not there. Like I'm emotionally not there. Like you guys aren't drawn to me. I'm not drawn to you. The universe doesn't put us together. So for me, I think it's incredibly important that I continue to nurture my mental health. And the way that I do that predominantly is through exercise and meditation, like exercise more so, like meditation for sure. But like if I can move, and I think exercise for me is a form of meditation, right? Like I find that flow state, I'm in the zone. Like it's not really about fitness. It's not about fitness at all. It's about finding myself in a position where I can think really clearly and, zoom over myself and look at where I'm at. How did I go tomorrow? Did I do everything I could have? Was I the best father? Was I the best husband? Yes, no, improve, pivot, and just constantly work on that, because I think that if I can do that, I get to inspire my kids as well. And, they get to understand that, maybe over time, that they certainly won't in the short term, but they can understand as they age that there was a conscious effort for me to create an environment that they could be the best. For me, that's what mental health is to me.
I really love that answer. The interweaving of, personal responsibility and understanding the ripple effect our personal mental health has. Because I think so often, especially for leaders, we can get it the wrong way around. We've got to sacrifice ourselves for the people around us. And that's such a, as we know, destructive cycle. So I really love that.
I want to add one thing to that, because like you're spot on in the way that there's an element of selfishness, right? Like there's an element of he always puts himself first, or in order for me to serve the people around me, I have to be in the best shape mentally and physically, right? And if I don't do that, then I'm actually doing my children a disservice, because like I'm not my best. And if I have massive goals and ambitions of myself and what I set out to achieve, like in my head, it's crystal clear, right? Like where I'm going and what I'm going to do. But if I fall short of that, then it's less. Like I'm delivering less, and I know that I'm capable of more. So like, why not strive for that? Yeah. So that's the way I think of it sometimes. Like to the average person, it might look like selfish, right? But I don't necessarily want an average person to understand what I'm doing, because what we're all doing is not average, right? So it makes sense that yeah, you don't understand, or you don't, give us permission.
I love that so much, Court. Thank you. And Chong.
Yeah, I'll just probably add to what Courtney said really well. Really interesting question. When I think about answering this, I think, okay, what is health? When I think of when something is healthy, it means it is able to do what it is designed to do. So if our body's healthy, obviously it's working. And now when the mind is healthy, maybe I think about, okay, what is the purpose of the mind? And the purpose of the mind, in my opinion, is to enable us to do what we as a human being is here to do on this planet and in this life. And there are many different ideas out there, but simply, the number one idea is to be somewhat happy, right? I think happiness is, you don't have to be happy every single minute, every single day, but a general level of happiness and peacefulness is needed. And I think that's a very important role of the mind, to make sure that we're enjoying this life, and also to play our roles, whether it's a father, a mother, a daughter, son, a teacher, a brother, whatever roles we have. I think our mind is there to help us to play those roles well. Now, to have a healthy mind means we are able to play those roles well, to be happy, enjoy life, to learn, to play these roles well. And I think, for the majority of the planet, of the population, if we are able to tick these simple boxes where we're pretty happy and we're playing our roles well, and we're, depending on what roles we give ourselves, some people may have bigger responsibilities, such as, serving the planet or, millions of people. And that's what our mind's designed for. And a good mental health allows us to do all those things. And that's really, at the simplest level, is what I think mental health is. And, my role is, obviously a son, boyfriend, friend, but now a mentor to traders. I'm a trader. So a good mental health for me is more, I would say, mental strength and performance. And, everyone will have a little bit slightly different idea to that, depending on what role you're playing in life. And I think the good thing is it's all very much connected when we talk about mental health, mental performance, mindset. And, at the end of the day, it all comes back to, are we present? Are we present in each moment, to be aware of our roles, to be aware of the information that is available to us, and to make the best decisions. So that's my little definition.
I love the intentionality in both of these answers, the deep consideration, first and foremost, of what each of these words even mean. And after all of the research I've done in building in truth, health has been such a deep exploration. It's such a deep, and I really couldn't agree more with this definition, that the full functionality of something is present, whatever that may be. And I just think about the mind and how powerful the mind truly is if it was fully unlocked, and how exciting it would be to have an entire generation have full access to their mind's power, the true capabilities of the human mind, how the world would evolve in that, and what kind of world could be created if that was really harnessed and cultivated.
What do you reckon? Like, so I've actually spent a fair bit of time thinking about this, like the two definitions of this word, which, like, one of them is happiness and the other one is joy. And I think some people would say that they mean the same thing, but I think that they mean very different things. And I think that sometimes, if you're not conscious or aware, happiness is viewed as more of a destination, not a feeling. I think people refer to joy as a feeling, but happiness as a place. Like, it's a destination. Like, I will be happy when I will be happy if I get. So it's like, it's a place or it's a thing. And I think a lot of the times that there's so many people that are way further down the road than us that give us information that we assume isn't true. Like if Warren Buffett, sits in his AGM and talks about how money isn't meaningful to him, we assume that he's lying. right? It's like, it's easy to say that because he has money. Like, there's so many people that have a huge amount of wealth, or they have a huge amount of material things, that openly say that this isn't the thing that makes them happy, right? But we all, like, if we're less than that, we assume that's not true. And it's crazy to me that people give. So, like, when you're in your teens, early 20s, like, the people around you, your family, your uncles, your aunties, like, they all want to give you advice. And for the most part, we don't listen, right? Because, we think that we know better. And then what happens when you're in your late 20s or early 30s? Then people stop giving you advice, and it's like, wow, like, I'm kind of open to receive some information now when everyone just assumes that I have it figured out. And I had this thought, right, that when my kids were really little, my eldest is nearly 10 now, but when she was 2, it's like I'd have complete strangers, elderly people, walk up to us in a cafe and say, hey, like, I just want to let you know, like, you have a beautiful little family, make the most of it. Like, they grow up so fast. And again, it's another saying that we would have heard 100 times, but people just, like, they blow it off. And I was like, wow, like, all these elderly people are saying the same message. Like, I don't know these guys, but like, that feeling to push them towards me, to communicate that, there was pain there, right? It's like, they needed to try to send me a message, a young guy with a young family, that's like, hey, like, this goes way too fast. Like, please make the most of it. So I think that there is so much information out there that we need to dissect and filter. But a lot of people, like, it might seem like they're just saying things, but like, there's a huge amount of chunks that we can take away from and apply to our own life.
So agree with that. I think about cliches all the time. Cliches are these, so something was true enough that it became a cliche, something was, and yet we have this relationship with cliches, which is dismissive, but actually cliches are most likely the thing that holds the most wisdom. So I couldn't agree more with that. I've loved this conversation, you guys, and I just want to give a shout out to anyone in our community that maybe works with a mental health organization, works with young people in this kind of space, whether that's a meditation teacher, yoga teacher, something like this, that has a passion for the wellness of our young people. Please reach out to us. We want to build relationships with you. We want to have you in our network so that as we grow our financial model, this is something that we can use to really serve you. And I also want to give a shout out, if it's okay, to anyone that has a background that would be really suited to helping us drive this mission forward, whether that is as a partner, whether that's potentially as a board member of the foundation. We're always interested in connecting with people that have a similar mission in the world, that care about similar things, and are not just thinking 5-10 years, but actually thinking 30, 40, 50 years into the future and beyond, and vision a similar world.
Yeah, I very much a big believer in power and unity, and we definitely can't do this alone. So anyone that's passionate about this as well, listening to this, that you feel like you just want to learn more about it, or even help us join the journey, join the mission, definitely reach out. I'm just, cannot be a bigger believer in the power of unity, because I just see the pattern of, like, it's literally why humans exist, right? Like, we exist because we were able to communicate with each other. We united to beat the faster and the stronger animals. And here we are. So let's continue to use this powerful idea to, create the change that we want.
Amen to that. Thank you both so much.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Chong. I appreciate you both.
Yeah, I love chatting with you guys.
Thank you for listening, my friend. If you enjoyed the show, please let us know by leaving a review or sharing the episode with someone you love and expanding this conversation as far and wide as possible. If you're looking for a community to have conversations with about global affairs, please jump in our Telegram group or join our free think tanks. Thanks for being a part of the shift towards a love-based civilization. We'll see you in the Telegram group or in the next episode.